Hello. Welcome. And thank you for being here. Great. What an excellent intro that was. Let's have a listen to what you guys have been doing. Off to a great start. My internet is, knock on wood, behaving so far. I reset everything before I started the stream, so I think that might be a good move. Anyway, whatever. Let's have a listen to Cheeky Final, hopefully. Maybe. We all been there. Okay, let's have a listen.
So cheeky.
Yeah, honestly, dude, that sounds it sounds pretty done. The only thing that stuck out to me at all was right here. This like kind of final drop section. It just kind of happened. Maybe it might be overplaying it, but we went the whole track besides right, I think here.
Why you gotta be so cheeky?
Right? And then, yes, you use the vocals, and I like all the places you've used the vocals. But then when it got to this section, I almost expected one last little build, drop out, and then why you gotta be so cheeky. And maybe it won't, maybe it doesn't work, maybe it ruins the flow, but I think you should at least try it. Besides that, it sounds done. I think you did a good job. I kind of want to listen. I think this is the first one you sent. I'd like to hear the difference. So let's just quickly have a... Okay. There's an MP3 at the top of the thread. I want the feedback live mastering, dude. Okay. If we have time, I'll do both. So let's line this up so we have a bit better of a comparison. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it's funny because you kind of nailed the production in this initial version that you sent. I think it was really just all the little attention to detail things like the dropouts, the drum fills, the vocal parts that cut in that really made a big difference. Because I honestly don't hear, unless I'm not listening to the first one you sent, but I think this is the first one you sent. Anyway, I think it sounds great. I would maybe try to have a bit better of a defined start to this last section because it just kind of like I said, it just kind of happens. It builds up and then all of a sudden we're into it. And I feel like it might be a good idea to give us one last reiteration of the why you got to be so cheeky and then hit us with the rest of the track just to kind of remind us, because I really like how you did it at the start.
Why you gotta be so cheeky?
Like I think that's dope. So maybe try to give it a little bit more of a definition as to where the build-up ends and the drop starts towards the end. But besides that, sounds great. Sender. All right. I'll drop the first ever version. Okay, sounds good. We'll line it up after. All right. Eswin and Raham, and I don't know if it's Dash Allow. Is that an artist or is that the title? I'm not sure, but anyway, Eswin and Raham, and then some other words that come after that. But first, we're just gonna do this real quick. Oh, it's very small. Aloe. Okay. Is there a dash? Is the dash part of the name, or is that just part of the file name? Let's have a listen to this. It's very gentle, although I really like this thing. I feel like we lost that, or it's mixed in a way that I didn't really hear it, but I think this part is sick. I wonder if you could try to like throw that into the real version, the newest version, because that thing is cool. I don't know if it's dropping out and just doing the v thing, but maybe it's you're able to mix it in. I don't know. It's wicked. Let's have a listen to this. This. Here we go. Eswin Raham, Aloe, Just Breathe. So this sounds sick so far. The only thing is that one tone. It's I know it's like a bell tone, so it's supposed to be resonant in that way, but I would maybe take that track and just chill that one frequency out a little bit, because I noticed my speakers are pretty loud, and when those notes hit, I like the sound of it, but that one frequency just kind of pokes out a little bit too much. Maybe it's more of this frequency. I don't know. There's just something that's a bit too resonant-y. Anyway, let's keep listening. I can't really hear the vocals. They sound very scooped. They sound like I hear the very top end of the vocal and I hear some of the fundamental, but they are not being represented in the mix very well so far.
Still caught up in my head. An empty screen. asking where I've been. It's always gonna let you down. That's how it's gonna be. Maybe take a look around. You got away from me.
I should stop just because Raham, they're bright enough. They're almost too bright. Like the S's and the top end and the high frequency airiness of the vocals cuts through, but the body of the vocals doesn't cut through. It's almost like somebody's like trying to whisper through the mix. You said they sounded good in the mix, Raham. Wow, some beef going on. Anyway, let's keep going. It's always gonna let you down. That's how it's gonna be. Maybe take a look around. You got away from me. It's always gonna let you down. That's how it's gonna be. Maybe take a look around. You got away from me. I love the track. I think the vocals aren't cutting through enough. That's the biggest problem. The other thing is this breathe in, breathe out part is like really cool. And I almost feel like I was going to say you should put it at the start, but I guess you did put it at the start. Honestly, I think really mostly the only thing that this track needs is those vocals to sound like they are effortlessly cutting through the mix, not like they're whispering. And I know that the performance is a little airy, like the way that you are performing the vocals, whoever's singing. It's being performed very airy-ish, airy. I don't want to say Aryan, airy, areolas. Airy. Yes, you can submit. I haven't hit my full maximum amount of tracks to say, yeah, put one in. Yeah, okay. So like your performance is very airy, airful. And that's okay. But I think that the mix, it could be a combination of the way you've mixed the vocals, but it also could be the track itself has too much going on where like an airy vocal wouldn't cut through anyway. You know what I mean? What's up, Katya? So yeah, that's my main concern with this track. The track is really good. It reminds me of What's that BT album? It's the one with like 13 angel wings on my broken windowsill or something. I can't remember what it's called, but it sounds like it would fit right in with that. And I love that album. So I think this has really good bones. It's just the vocal mix. It's almost like, why even have those vocals if I can't understand what they're saying or can't hear them that well. This vocal cuts through quite a bit better. I like the way that those vocals are mixed. There's a few words that I might have to listen to it a couple times to understand what the lyrics are, but that's whatever. That's like any track. Sometimes the vocals just don't cut through that well, and that's okay. But the vocal mix in that section sounds good. It's really just those really kind of whispery ones. I really do like. I feel like I've used the word really a lot. I like the formant shift LFO thing that's happening on the vocals during this part. I think it's really cool. It's like it sounds cool. I like it. Yeah, it's dope. I think it ends a little abruptly. I think you need to fix the vocals, and I would try to avoid some of those pokey frequencies on that bell kind of sound that's happening. But besides that, it's great. Good job. Okay, this is the one. I'm gonna master this track for Boris. Yeah, okay, let's just master right now. So this is a track that isn't mastered, clearly. I hope it's 24-bit because that's quite quiet, and that's maybe a good thing to touch on. Let me take a look real quick. It probably is 2116 kilobits per second. I can't remember what that equates to. Anyway, the problem with when you render at a 16-bit file, if it's loud, it doesn't really matter, but when it's quiet, the quantization, so the step between each sample starts to come into play because the steps are bigger. So instead of having, like, I don't know, this might be a bit over the top for what we're doing, but let's have a look anyway. We'll open up. It's pretty crazy that this file in Paint takes a minute to open up. That's, I've never had a Paint file take a while. It is 24. Okay. Well, I'm still going to explain this real quick. So say you have an audio file, right? And, if you digitize it, then there's only discrete values that each sample can be. So what you end up having is, instead of having instead of a sine wave, let's get rid of this. Let's do a square or a sawtooth, right? So if this was 1 bit, if there was only 1 bit depth, then what would happen is you would have a square wave, because it would the only 2 values would be below 0, and then at some point it would come up and it would be there, and then it would go back down, and this would be 1 bit depth. Now, obviously, we don't really do anything in 1 bit. We do at least 16-bit. That's CD quality. So 16-bit has how many possible values? I can't remember. What's 2 to the power of 16? Let's figure that out. 2 to the power. How do I? Am I gonna have to Google 2 to the power of 16? Here we go. What is 2 to the power of 16? I should know this number. 65,000. Okay, so we have 65,000 possible levels that could represent this analog waveform, right? Now, that seems like a lot. And if you're using all of them, your waveform goes all the way loud, like as if it was mastered, then that is a lot. But if you can imagine sending a really quiet waveform down here and you have to zoom in, all of a sudden those stair steps that happen when you quantize something to discrete levels, they start to become a bigger percentage of the overall volume. So you start to hear what is interpreted as noise, especially if you export it with dithering on. So when you send something that's not going to be full volume like this, especially if you're going to send it to get mastered, and I'm pretty sure this is 24-bit, but I think 16-bit is like 1114 kilobits per second or something like that. How many kilobit per second is 16-bit audio? 1411. I was close. So yeah, it is 24-bit. Anyway, when you send something that's going to be quiet, you should send it as 24-bit, because then those stair steps get much smaller, because what's 2 to the power of 24? Now instead of having what was it, 65,000, we have 16 million possible levels that it could get quantized to, so that the stair step from one value to the next is way smaller, like way smaller, so you don't get that noise. Anyway, that was long-winded and not very well explained. I hope you'll forgive me. All right, let's master this. So the first thing I usually do is I just normalize the file, because why not? There's really no reason not to. And then I do all my mastering in Ozone, unless I have some special case, but most of it can be done with this signal path in terms of how I do it. I start off with a mid-side EQ. I go into a multi-band compressor, and then I hit the master limiter. I usually use modern, and I kind of play around with this. If the music is very aggressive and distorted right off the hop, then you can get away with a much faster release time. They call this character, but I'm pretty sure it's just, it does attack and release. This is kind of how up here the compressors move. The gain reduction is more like somebody moving a volume or a volume fader. It's very slow to react and slow to recover from a big gain reduction event. And down here, it's more like just like straight up wave shaping. So it's just going to distort the signal. Now, if you're making like really aggressive dubstep or something that has a lot of distortion anyway, you can go pretty low on this and not really notice a difference, because there's a bunch of distortion, and okay, now it's slightly more distorted, but it was distorted to begin with, so who cares? I usually leave a 0.1 dB ceiling, just because nobody would ever notice that difference. But this might be outdated, but back in the day, I think it was like SoundCloud, there was something that if you went right all the way to 0 dB, the algorithm that played back like some compressed version of it on the internet sometimes would do unpredictable things. Ozone 9 doesn't have clip and transient knobs. No, I don't even know what we're up to now. I have Ozone. I think I have Do I have Ozone 10? No, I think Ozone 9 is as high as I went. Anyway, this is just a general workflow that I use. It's not to say that it's the correct workflow. It's just the one that I've used for years, and it's what I'm most comfortable with. So let's have a listen to the track. I usually just like to listen while I'm playing around with stuff, and then I'll narrow in on, like right here, there's some pretty sharp peaks. So that might be a limiting factor in terms of how much we're able to limit the limiter, the signal. Anyway, let's have a listen. And let me make sure this is okay. Okay, this is pretty cool so far. I don't know where do we land here. Okay, right there. I'm contemplating buying Kappa's X5. That's the joke. So the problem that I'm having with this right now is specifically the choir is very mid-range, high mid-range, danger frequency kind of heavy. And I want to pull that out, but I don't know if that's going to affect other things in a negative way. So if I pull that out of the master, now all of a sudden maybe the snare drum sounds weird because I pulled a whole bunch of like the snare drum frequency out, right? So I have some options. Typically, I can sometimes get away with using this multiband compressor to react dynamically. It's kind of like a dynamic EQ. They have a dynamic EQ in here as well that I really never use. But if you solo this band, you can hear. See, like if I do some real nasty stuff, it to me sounds better. See what I mean? But I shouldn't do this in the master. This is I think there's going to be a mix adjustment. Like I would talk to DDRMR, which is Boris, who's made the track. I would get him probably to do this sort of thing specifically to the choir track and resend it to me, or he could stem it out and send it to me. Daydreamer, thank you for making me understand how to pronounce that. So yeah, to me, I could still go through and do my best to make what he sent sound as good as possible. It's already stemmed out. Yeah, I'm not going to go through and do all the stems. I think what you should do is I think you should just take the choir and like just do like this. I don't think you need to soothe. I don't think soothe is. I don't like soothe. I don't like plugins that are black boxes. I don't like not knowing exactly what's happening to the audio signal. And there's quite a few plugins out there that do that. They may work fine. It's kind of like my aversion to AI. I mean, like maybe I'm setting myself behind by not using it. But to me, I like to understand down to the atomic level everything that's happening. And if I send, especially if you use Soothe in the master and you're sending your entire track into this big question mark and something comes out, maybe it sounds better, maybe you think it sounds better, maybe it sounds better on your speakers but sounds fucked up on something else, you know what I mean? So I don't really like using that stuff. I think all you need to do is, again, if I listen to this and I just take this multiband compressor, yeah, but Raham, even that, like, that is a vague statement. It's reacting to the super strong frequencies. That's not good enough for me. I need to know exactly what it's doing. No, I know there's more than one knob. I understand that. But you cannot tell me you understand how Soothe works. I don't think anybody understands how... I don't even think the people who made Soothe knows how Soothe works. You know what I mean? Anyway, I would just go and, like... I would just go and pull out a lot of that frequency. Like I'm doing a lot of reduction in that frequency range. And see how when I bring that compressor threshold back up, all of a sudden you're like it hurts because there's just so much frequencies crammed into that one area of the mix that it's overwhelming. Everything else in the mix to me sounds good. It's just the choir is challenging. And I don't think I would be able to do a good job at mastering it without that track. I mean, like, yes, it's stemmed out. Yes, I could grab the stems, but I'm not going to do that on stream. I don't think so. Especially when it's just a matter of going and doing something similar to this to the choir specific, like just the choir track. Like with that much pulled out of that frequency range, I could listen to this louder. Anyway, I'm beating off a dead horse. So far, that's my only real mixed feedback, is that the choir has too much of this 1 to 6K hertz. So go into this area and just drastically reduce it. You could do it with an EQ. The only reason I was using this was to try and get around the fact that I don't have the stems loaded up. But you could also just go like this, and in this 1 to 6K, this kind of area, if you did a big dirty dip like that, I think you'll find that it solves some problems. Let's keep going, because we stopped listening rate. What do you mean it's 2 crimes in 1? I think it's 0 crimes, actually. It may be frowned upon, in our current cultural climate, but I don't think there's anything illegal about it. I'm just saying. Not that I would do it, but I don't think there's anything illegal about it. First of all, I'm pretty sure there's an actual job where you beat off a living horse. I'm pretty sure that's a real job. It's like a horse breeder, right? So I don't think that's illegal. And then say the horse just happened to not be alive. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Maybe they're just bad at their job and they didn't notice that the horse was dead. Is that illegal, or is it just ethically questionable? I'm not sure. Anyway, we're going to keep going. I don't really, this is not the hill I want to die on. So I know that I'm just like kind of mastering this, but this section to me is kind of a bit boring. It just I think it does the same thing 4 times in a row with there's no like riser letting us know that we're moving forward in the track. We just to me, I like what's there and I like where it goes. That's cool. But the fact that it just feels copied and pasted 4 times feels a little uninspired to me. I'd probably have like something changing, something, evolving and building towards the next part. That's the feedback I'd have for that section. Now, I've gone over this in the past, but basically my approach, and again, this isn't the right approach, it's just my approach, is that I like to do some general shaping in the EQ. So, maybe it's not, the whole mix is just kind of not bright enough. So I'll usually do a mid-side EQ. I'll cut the low ends out of the side channel. Sometimes, depending on the elements that are on the sides, maybe I'll give it a bit of a boost on the sides, which also has the effect of adding some stereo width, because we're adding more kind of airiness and presence in the top end of the side channels. And then, yeah, it's just some general soft, nothing too crazy. If it needs a lot, I'll just go back to the person and ask them to fix it in the mix. And if you're mastering your own stuff, then obviously you can fix it in the mix yourself. Then after kind of the general shaping and balancing of like the how bright it is or how muddy or whatever, it goes into this dynamics. And then what I'm trying to do is there's certain things like the kick drum. You can kind of compress the kick drum however you want, at least the thump of it and the low end, because you solo this part down here, and now you can control those big thumps of the kick drum with this compressor. And then that way, when a big kick drum happens, if you were to compress the whole signal all at once, when that kick drum big low frequency thump comes through, the high frequencies will get dipped down because of it. So it's kind of like taking each individual section of the track and processing it individually in preparation for hitting the master limiter. So I'm trying to control each frequency range. So a lot of the time, this right here, this will be the punch of the snare drum will fall into this, and a lot of like the bass sounds. So if there's a lot of big wub sounds and whatnot, you can control the dynamics of those separately as well. So if a big bass wub happens, you don't hear the hi-hats dip down because of it, because you're controlling them separately. Same thing up here. This might be maybe vocals, maybe the snap of the snare, maybe the transient of the kick. And then this is all the top drums and everything. Usually I don't go for much on the top end. I'll usually just let it tickle, like just... So yeah, just a little bit of a tickle. And all that I'm trying to do in this situation is prepare the track to get hit as hard with this master limiter as possible without having, again, things like the kick drum causing the top end to duck, because this master limiter is reacting to this big uncontrolled dynamic event in the bottom end, but all it can do is bring the whole track down as a response. So I'm trying to control the frequency ranges independently, try to get them all under control, and then say, here you go, master limiter. I've tried to make it as easy for you as possible. And then that way I can get the most volume and perceived power out of the track without having weird pumping artifacts based on all the shit that I just said probably 2 or 3 times in a row. Now this track is quite a bit distorted, so I'm going for fast, because what happens with the fast, let's see if I can demonstrate this. Yeah, how do I pause? Can I pause that? Oh, I could do it. Oh, I know. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do a snipping tool. There we go, and put this here. Okay, so I'm going to play it. Okay, so, where are we? Here we are. So you can see when I had it fast, it's way quicker for the volume to return to full volume after an event, after something happens that causes the limiter to duck the volume. You can see it tries to go back up to full volume quicker. So what we have is this is going to be louder because we're bringing the volume up quicker, as opposed to when I had it really slow, it never actually comes up to full volume. So that's going to be quite a bit quieter. But the benefit of this is all these quick little movements in the gain reduction, that is represented, that becomes distortion. That's what we hear as distortion, because it's just following the waveform as it's returning to zero. So we're going to hear that. When it comes to really slow release times and slow attack times, it's more of somebody playing with the volume as opposed to reacting at an audio frequency rate to the dynamics of the input signal. Now both of these, I push the limiter way too hard. Like, you shouldn't really see this happen regardless of how quick or slow your compressor is. But that's kind of the difference between fast. It's louder because we get back up to full volume quicker. So that's going to be overall louder. And a slow release time, this is mostly affecting the release time. You can see it kind of, you see this is kind of rounded on the attack, but it's mostly affecting how quickly we recover from a gain reduction event. So fast is louder but distorted. Slow is smoother but quieter. Because this track is already distorted, I can go pretty aggressive on down into the fast. So, like, I think this is pretty much as far as I could. Normally, if I was going to master this, I would go over it a few times. But I think what I would get Boris to do is play with that choir and try to pull out. Try to pull out 1 to 6 kilohertz in the choir. Drop it down. I think you'll find that your ear fatigue will go down after. I'm sure if you spend a lot of time with this. Thank you, Will, for pointing that out. I think if you spend a lot of time with this, that choir is really going to wear your ears down to the point where, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like sometimes my ears will get hot, like physically, like I can feel them be hot. And I don't know the science behind this, but if I mix for a long time with a loud volume, my ears get hot. And I think that that's not good. That's because someone is thinking about you. I hope they're thinking good things about me. Anyway, so yes, Boris, go turn down that frequency range and resend. And then I'll go through and do an actual master. But that's kind of my workflow when I master something. Yeah, I mean the M50s would explain the heat, but I rarely mix on headphones. Wow. That was wow. Yeah, I rarely mix on headphones and my ears still get hot, so I don't think that fully explains it. I'm just realizing that I told Jay Gray that I left my back door open, and I don't think I left my back door open. I should, just one sec. I'm going to send him a Snapchat to let him know. Hi, Jay Gray. I'm on the stream right now, but I'm just realizing that I think I locked my back door out of habit. So Will says that you can go to his place until I get home. Okay, bye. Hi, Jay Gray. I'm on the stream right now, but okay. Okay, crisis averted. Anyway, that's my quick and dirty way of mastering. To me, when I master my own stuff, it's like the mix and the production and the master and the sound design. It's all intertwangled. It's all intertwangled and related. So it all kind of happens in the same step for me. But sometimes it's good to turn off your master bus and kind of have a little peek at what is actually going on and what maybe your master bus is doing to save the mix. Because sometimes you can be really way off on the mix, and that your master effects chain might just be doing a lot of heavy lifting, and you want the master to not, you want to make the mastering effects as easygoing as possible. You don't want them to have to work hard, because when they work hard, you hear them work hard. You want to do as much preparation and hand them this nicely controlled signal for them to react to. Okay, let's move on. ID number 4. Don't know who this is. Let's have a listen. I'm going to go turn my phone to vibrate. Oh, I should turn off all this mastering stuff, shouldn't I? There we go. And turn you and you and you and you and you. Go away. Okay, here we go. why did the hi-hat volume dip all of a sudden? This part is honestly sick. I really like this part. The everything leading up to it was kind of, I don't want to say boring, but I kind of was like waiting for the next part. So whatever that means, maybe boring is a good word to describe it. Like there's kind of not a lot for me to sink my teeth into in terms of what's going on. It's just like, but when it gets here, this is like a detective in the future trying to investigate a violent crime or something. Her body was mangled, hit by a hover car, traveling 3/4 of the speed of light. I don't know which android did this, but I'm gonna figure it out. Which clanker or whatever people are saying about robots now. Yeah, so to me, I think that like this is dope, and I think that the intro is okay. So stop. Yeah, I'm exercising creative, what's it called? Creative liberty, or I need you to suspend your disbelief, okay? She was hit at 3/4 of the speed of light, and her body was mangled. She barely survived. Anyway, I don't know really what advice to give you for the start, but I didn't love the track until it got to that section, and then I loved the track. So whatever you're doing in this section is working. I think when it gets to this spot, the drums just kind of sound like generic, like I got a DAW and it came with some drum machine samples. Like they're not really inspired. They just kind of sound like, hey guys, yeah, I'm the drums, so should I be here? That's kind of what it feels like to me. But then when it gets here, I started to think, oh, this is okay. This is starting to get better. And then when I got here, I still think that top drums you could have, maybe not right off the start, but if you listen to like trap music and you listen to how they do like their fancy little helicopter hi-hat things, you know, like, you know, that sort of stuff, I wouldn't overuse it, but I think you're really relying on that eighth note, it's a very rigid eighth note hi-hat thing, which can be cool. But I think if you wanted to pick it up maybe halfway through this section, bring in something that has like a 16th note thing going on, something that has a little bit more hits per second. And I also don't know why the hi-hats, I feel like the drums are, you can see it. You can see how like these are the hi-hats. Each of these peaks are hi-hats and then they just kind of go away. I don't know if that was an intentional choice or maybe they're going into a bus with something else that's causing the gain to be reduced, but it threw me off a bit because I was like, I don't understand why the hi-hats got quieter. It sounded like a mistake to me. So I don't know, take that with a grain of salt. Let's keep listening. Don't like those chords. Also, generally speaking, I don't really ever like a section that's just like chord for a whole note, and then another chord for a whole note, and then another chord for a whole note, and then another chord for the whole. Like, to me, I feel like I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs waiting for the next whole note chord to happen. And even if they're great chords, there usually has to be something else happening to drive the narrative forward. Like, to me, I don't want to sit around and just wait for like the chords to happen. That it seems this section I don't agree with. Oh, we got a little bit of drums that come in. What is that? Man, that's crazy. The void. It is. I think it's the aliasing, like they've got some bit rate reduction, but like that's wild. So I think what's happening is the track is from here down. That's the track, and then from here up is the aliasing that's being happened. That's not how you say words. That's happening because of the sample rate reduction. I don't like these two chords alternating. They make me feel not good. And I also wonder what it would be like if you switched the kick pattern up so that instead of like kick, snare, it was like kick, snare, kick, snare, you know, like it had a bit more of like a trap beat, because that it kind of sounds like it's trying to do like a bit of a trap beat thing. So this is my overall thoughts, besides all that stuff that I just said. My overall thoughts is that these two sections are dope. They're really good and I really like them. The rest is like meh. So I would probably try to build the track around, it doesn't mean you just do this the whole time, but I would maybe try to build the track around these musical ideas. Hold on a sec, I got an idea. Just want to try this real quick. Do this and then this. Check. Why isn't that working? Check. Oh, there we go. Okay, let me go like this. Fuck, I can't talk. Okay. She said she couldn't see it coming. I could tell she was lying because it was only traveling 3/4 of the speed of light. That gave her plenty of time to see it coming. I could tell this broad was working me, but she was half robot, so I had to let it slide. Okay. And then we go like this. Okay. And then we go like this. I could tell she was lying because it was only trap. That's not very good voice. That's not very good voice acting. I could tell she was lying because it was only traveling 3/4. She said she couldn't see it coming. This is so bad. You know what makes things better? OTT. She said she couldn't see it coming. I could tell she was lying because it was only traveling 3/4 of the speed of light. That gave her plenty of time to see it coming. I could tell this broad was working me, but she was half robot, so I had to let it slide. That was dumb. Anyway, Yes, Netflix, I got your track. I will I'll throw it in. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I think. I think that you fucking nailed it and did an incredible job during these sections, and then the other sections just were a little bit uneventful. By the way, last week when I couldn't figure out the word to send it and I'll put it in. Last week when I couldn't figure out the word, I figured it out last night. I had an aha moment. It was uneventful was the word I was trying to come up with. But yeah. So I know it's maybe a little bit my feedback is maybe a little vague on this, but I really do think that you did a great job in those sections that I spoke of, and I just think the other sections are just kind of they're just not as good. So could you maybe keep it as is and just kind of add to it? Yeah, maybe. But I would probably just try to rethink your arrangement and be like, okay, this is the track. And then maybe try to build the track out with that in mind, which maybe is what you're doing right now. But this section, it's just weird. It just kind of kicks me out, you know? Yeah. You don't have to make the other sections that different from this, you know? But anyway, that and maybe make the drums a bit more trappy, because they sound like they're trying to be trappy and they sound good, but the pattern doesn't change up enough. There's no little cool little snare rolls every once in a while, or like a hi-hat trill thing, like all the little trap things that make a trap beat. I'd go for that. Okay, cool. Thank you for sending. Let's move on. Michael Clifford, Kill Me for Always, featuring Porter Robertson TAC remix. Kill Me for Always? Kill Me for Always. Is that the title? Kill Me for Always? Anyway, I realize that that's not your choosing. I just don't get the title name, but that's fine. Okay, here we go.
The castles I built just to fall. I thought I could hold up the wall. The soldiers are standing there tall. They let their guard down when you sang and you kissed them all. The castle is me. Be careful the lies you believe about me. Can't you see? We broke the truce and now here come the enemies.
Okay, this is what I think so far. I like the intro, which I'm assuming is probably just the stems from the original, and that's cool. The little whoopy whoop synth thing.
Be careful the lies you believe about me.
I'd almost have it. I'd try putting it down an octave for this part, so that it doesn't interfere with the vocals as much. And I would also maybe have it do, because the vocal is doing like a melody, and then the synth is doing a different melody, but it's not really a complementary melody. It just kind of sounds like it's doing its own thing. But the vocal has words, and then the words stop, and you could go do. Like you could fill in that hole. So if you wrote the melody and tried to complement the vocals and where the vocals are and where the vocals aren't a little bit more, as opposed to just having the synth melody do its own thing underneath or over top of the vocals, I think, like I said, if you did do and then the vocal blah 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 do blah 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 blah, yeah. So I would start there. Now when it gets here. I wouldn't bring that synth thing in here yet. I think if you're gonna bring in that synth thing, it probably, especially with like this girthy section, I don't think you could bring that synth in with the vocals there too, because we're already struggling to hear the vocals through this mix because of how kind of like in your face the guitars and everything are, right? So now we're already kind of struggling to hear the vocals, and now you have a synth lead that also is taking up the same kind of space in the mix as the vocals. So now we're having a hard time hearing the vocals, but we're also having a hard time hearing the synth lead, and it's just it's too much in this drop section. I think if you kept working on the mix, it could work as is until that synth comes in. Now, another thing is it hoes from 5 to 100. I can't remember who asked, but they said, could I submit one? Yes, you can submit one, and then I'll probably close the submissions after that. So the vocals they sound like they are in the next room. I can tell they're there. I can hear that they're in the mix, but they are buried, right? So I like the music of the track. I like the production. You know, I think the mix could probably be better, but I think generally speaking, the biggest problem right now is the vocals are competing with things, and they are not winning that competition. You know what I'm saying? They're competing for our attention. They're competing for our listening abilities, and they just aren't winning. They're underneath everything. I can kind of hear like the top end of them coming through, but it may be fixable in the mix, but you may also need to maybe have these drop sections not have the vocals, and like maybe the vocal isn't in this section. It's more about maybe that's where the synth comes in, and we rock out with the guitars and the drums and the synth, and then the track dials back a little bit to allow the vocals to do their thing. So now you've given yourself an opportunity for the vocals to cut through the mix because you've pulled out a lot of the instrumentation. So sometimes it's not like, how do I get the vocals to fit in? Maybe they'll never fit in. Maybe it's more about, how can I make a spot for the vocals to shine? And in doing so, I have to pull out some of I keep saying pull out, and now that Will has pointed it out, I just keep thinking about it. And now I've lost my train of thought. Thanks, Will. Anyway, yeah, I think you're going to have a hard time getting those vocals to cut through that wall of sound. So maybe the choice is to not have them cut through the wall of sound. Maybe they're just not there. Maybe they're in these sections where we've gone down a lot in volume and there's a lot more room in the mix. Maybe this is where the vocals should be.
The comforting tale that you told, I thought it would never get old, but these poisonous hands that I hold, they tore up my gardens, burnt them, every last rose in the garden is
I don't know if Tact is in here, but I'm not sure if the guitars are from the original or not. I think the fact that they are mono. Yeah. So the guitars should be doubled. You should if you did record these and they're not from the original. Sorry, I have the hiccups. I would record yourself playing it twice and then hard pan left and right. That's the easiest, most classic way of making room for vocals in a mix with loud guitars, is that you take the guitars and you pan them left and right and you put the vocals in the middle. So now the guitars are nice and loud and they take up the same kind of frequency range, but the vocals are now in the center and they don't have to compete as hard because they have their own space in the stereo field. Even though they're competing in the frequency range, the stereo field has made room for them. So I think that's probably the biggest improvement you could easily make to this, is that if these are your guitars, you record it twice and you hard pan left and right. Some people will just take one recording and pan it hard left and hard right, and that does nothing except double the volume because they still are in the middle, because the middle is left and right being the same. So you have to record the guitar twice. You can do some dirty things with stereo visors and delay and, you know, that stuff. But for this specifically, your best bet 100% is to double those guitars, double record the guitars, pan hard left and right, and fit the vocals in the middle. Yeah, that's definitely why the vocals are having such a hard time now that I'm listening to it more. Let's solo. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you for researching that. Carolus? I need to like make this font bigger so I can read it. Can I do this? No. Okay, sorry. Yeah, if I solo the center channel and play. The guitar is like super loud, and if I solo the sides, the guitars like disappear except for like some room reverb sound or whatever, right? So yeah, that guarantee you is going to make a huge difference, is stereo, making those guitars stereo. And I think that synth melody could work, but I don't think it works with the vocals at the same time. I think you have to make a section that is specifically made for that synth line to exist in. And now that's the main thing. I don't think that synth thing works with the vocals at the same time. Yeah, see how like this section has no vocals, but the lead comes in? So like that's cool because that's like the synth part. That's the part where the synth happens. So I would do it that way. I wouldn't try to force those two things to exist at the same time. I don't think they can. Okay. I'm honest. I'm being honest though. Seriously, if you double track those guitars, pan hard left and right, your mind will be blown at the space you have created for the vocals to live. So do that. It's a very cool track. I think with some work, this could be a really good remix, especially if like the original was mellow, like somebody said, it's a mellow track, then this is a really cool interpretation of that. I think it just needs a little bit better arrangement in terms of where you put that lead sound and the vocals. And then, like I said, the doubling the guitars. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Where are we? Oh, that's one we just listened to. Okay, Singularity, Distance. He's going the distance. There's no drums in the original, no harsh guitars. Was that first part in it? Was this hold on a second. But did that come from the track as well? Oh, that's like yeah, okay, cool. All right, let's move on. So, Singularity, Distance. I honestly, I didn't find the arpeggio thing annoying. Maybe at this point you could lose it. I don't think it should go the whole time. I really do like the vibe of this, though. It sounds dope. I think that the kick and the bass are too loud. So if you notice what I did in here is I went into this frequency range, pulled almost 4 dB out. And then I also brought this down to get the overall volume up. And the effect of that is now all of a sudden the bass isn't quite as overwhelming. It feels like it's the proper volume and everything else has a better chance of like surviving and existing in the mix. What's going on with the with this? What's going on with the 192 line? We're gonna start calling this the 192 line. How come that's there? But is it a 192? Because we got stuff above the 192 line. Singularity distance. Let's see. It is a 320. So if it's a 320, why is there 192 line? Yeah, but it's not there just when the vocal is there. I'm not accusing you of foul play. I don't think that's what this is. I'm just wondering if maybe like one of the samples that you're using the background or something. It's not necessarily a problem. I'm just curious. I'm not I know that in the past I have been like, this is bad. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I was just curious. I'd probably bring the vocals up. I mean, they sound louder in the first part. I also do think that the arpeggio should at least change at some point. Like here, you could probably drop it out. Oops. What I would do is I'd take the arpeggio out, I'd push the vocals up, and then I would here bring in some sort of lo-fi beat or something that like starts to build us up to the main section again. But I think getting rid of the arpeggio altogether, I wouldn't even turn it down. I would just get rid of it and maybe either if it needs something, replace it with something else. But I almost think if the vocals were more in the limelight and up front in the mix, you could probably drop out, have maybe some effect like, like a down swooper lifter thing, whatever. Cymatics down lifter number 69. But I would have this moment have more effect. Because right now it just kind of has a, like almost like you took a sip of Pepsi or something, like cold Pepsi. Now, I'm not suggesting you have, like the sound of a nuclear bomb going off or anything, but just a little bit more of an effect. Get rid of the arpeggio, have the vocal be the main focus. Then when you get halfway through this breakdown, start building us up with some sort of drum, or it doesn't even have to be, maybe it could be that the arpeggio, maybe you could slow it to half time. Maybe you could render the arpeggio out to audio and then turn the pitch down an octave, which would slow it down to half tempo. Something like that to give it some cool texture or something unique happening and build us up. I don't think there's enough effects happening. It's almost like the effects were done, I don't know, 5 kilometers away. and then you held a microphone out your window and was like, "Hey, play the effects," and then you recorded it and put it in the mix. And that's a stupid way of saying I think that the effects are too quiet. Yeah, I think here's what I think. I think that the arpeggiator is good until the breakdown. Lose it in the breakdown. Give it back to us at the drop. By that time we will want it, and when it happens, we'll be very familiar with it. We'll have it stuck in our head, and we'll miss it. The what's it called? Distance makes the heart grow fonder. Yeah. So in the breakdown, if you lose it and then you bring it back in the drop, we're going to be like, there's that thing again, you know? But then I kind of think that it might still be getting a bit old if you don't switch it up or if nothing changes at this point. Put it up an octave, put it down an octave, slow the tempo by half, maybe speed it up twice as fast. I think that would maybe make it more annoying. But yeah. I think it's really cool, though. I really like the vibe of this. I think that if you maybe give some of the notes a try and see what you think, I think you'll be well on your way. Okay, great job. Let's try Zetmo Adversity. Yeah, so it's him behind the arpeggiator. Yeah, I like the arpeggiator. I agree that it is just used too much and we don't have a chance to miss it. So, okay, here we go.
Heroes aren't born. They're forged in the crucible of adversity. Think of the times when life threw its worst at you, when the storms raged and the ground crumbled beneath your feet. Did you back down? They're forged in the crucible of adversity.
Wow. I hope you're going to keep going like it needs another drop, but... So here's what I would do. I would take your snare drum. I would dip some of that frequency, which is up here, this kind of area. I would dip some of that down, and I would try to get the fundamental of the snare, the poom, Like, I would try to get that cutting through the mix a bit more. I think what this track needs, it's funny because I was just about to say dynamics. I'm not hearing really like, it just kind of sounds like it is at 100% the entire time. And I'm not really hearing like a, it's almost like I can hear the drums, but I can't feel the drums, if that makes sense. So I would probably, I think the kick is okay. Yeah, I think I would just like that snare to be a little less harsh in the top end and have a bit more of a poom, like a feeling, like in my chest. You know what I mean? I think one of the reasons why I want that, if I were to psychoanalyze myself, is there's so much complexity, right? This whole track is just like, if I close my eyes, I just see like the Matrix, like numbers running up and down in green. Like it's all complex. It's super complex. So it's very busy and dense. There's a lot of things happening all the time. And what I think I'm looking for is anchoring points, if that makes sense, to anchor myself rhythmically. Now I have the kick that really cuts through the mix because we have the side chaining, we have a thump that interrupts the bottom end and has like a thump, like I can feel it, but I don't get that on the snare. And in order for me to like feel like I'm anchored in it rhythmically, I think I need the kick and the snare to cut through the mix and designate like kick, snare, kick, snare. It's predictable. It's rhythmic. I can nod my head to it. And there can be a bunch of crazy shit happening in between the kick and the snare. But if the kick and the snare are more present dynamically in terms of like punching me to hit me every quarter note or whatever the rhythm ends up being, I think that would allow the complexity to remain as complex as you want it to be. It can be super crazy the whole time, but we have some form of structure in that kick and that snare. And we already have that, but if you had the bottom end of the snare punch through the mix and hit me in the chest, with the same kind of impact to the thank you, to the same impact as the kick drum, then all of a sudden the structure is there and I can anchor myself rhythmically a little bit easier, but still enjoy all the complex like insanity of the track. The rest of, I think that's my only real feedback, because the rest of the track is like, it's pretty crazy, it's pretty distorted, but yeah. That's what I think. That's pretty much that's all I got. That's all I got for this one. It's cool. I like it. It's aggressive. Just make the snare punch a bit harder. You know what? I took the ARP out of some sections. You were right. Frick you. Yeah. It's a cool arpeggiator, but like, you know, when you use it so much, then it kind of loses its luster, I guess. All right. Aiden Dodge Somber. I almost said Sombre. Soon to feature Matrix for real.
She makes your life feel like December. The way that she's so hot but makes me feel so cold. She's a master of deception. The way she shows me signs but we never get close. This girl has me on the fence, 'cause I wanna hold on, but I know that I should probably let go. I'm losing all common sense. She keeps leading me.
So the vocals sound pretty good, but they sound like they're rolling off in the top end. Like I'm not hearing a lot of like high frequencies in the vocals. That's why if I boosted this, if I go into the mid, sorry, not the mids, but the middle channel of the stereo field.
She keeps leading me on, and I wanna believe that she loves me so. 'Cause I can only imagine a song.
The whole track kind of has this like boxy feel. Remember Boxy Babe? Whatever happened to her?
In a somber life without her, and I wanna let her go, but I can't stop thinking about.
Let me just like make sure I'm not doing something dirty here. No, we're all good. Yeah, just the top frequency of the whole track, but mostly I'm noticing it in the vocals.
In a somber life without her, and I wanna let her go, but I can't stop thinking about her. How many more late nights in bed daydreaming for hours, 'cause they're screaming in my head and it's all
I like the melody. I like the vocals. I think the track is cool. I think it's really just like my biggest thoughts on this right now is just the lack of brightness, mostly in the vocals. But the more I listen, the more it sounds like it's like overall on the whole track. Like, you hear the difference if I...
She's a master of deception. The way she shows me signs, but we never get close. This girl has me on the fence. 'Cause I wanna hold on, but I know that
Like, when I click the bypass and turn off my master effects, which is just like boosting some high end and pulling out some of those low mids, when I turn the bypass on, so I get rid of my effects, it sounds like I have water in my ears. And then when I turn the effects back on, it sounds like I got the water out of my ears, which is great.
she's a master of deception. The way she shows me signs, but we never get close. This girl has me on the fence. 'Cause I wanna hold on, but I know that I should probably let go. I'm losing all common sense. She keeps leading me on, and I wanna believe that she loves me so. 'Cause I can only imagine a...
You can see it being represented over here in the spectrum analyzer. You can see that it like rolls down. Like it just, off the top end, like everything above like 5 kilohertz just kind of like rolls off a little bit too easily. You'll never believe this, but the... Regarding the drum and bass section, I don't know that it's necessary. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. But I don't know if it's really... I mean, like, the track is sick without the drum and bass part. Like, the melodies that are happening, the sound design, the chords, like, the drums. It's all really good. I don't know if the drum and bass section is really... I don't know if it's really needed. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a response to that. Nothing you ever do is really necessary. I feel like that's a bit of a cop-out. I mean, like, it's kind of overly generalizing. I mean, sure, creating the song as a whole wasn't necessary. Like, but when in terms of the story you're telling with this track, the drum and bass section, I don't know that it's improving the track. Would that be a better way of saying it? Like, sure, yeah, nothing is necessary except like breathing and eating and drinking and peeing and pooping. But that's not even necessary. You could just die. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to get you to not do the drum and bass thing, but if you think it sounds underwhelming and you're struggling to make it fit in the track, maybe it just doesn't fit in the track. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you really want to have the drum and bass section, but can you think of a reason to have the drum and bass section? Not that you necessarily need it. I don't know. I'm just saying that the track would be dope if it didn't have the drum and bass section. The drum and bass section is okay. It doesn't, like, personally for me, I prefer this. I like that vibe a lot better than, but I'm not trying to step on your creativity. If you want to put a drum and bass section, by all means, put a drum and bass section. I've put drum and bass sections in songs that probably shouldn't have had drum and bass sections. And I haven't put drum and bass sections in songs that probably should have had drum and bass sections. Numb reference. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think that if you want to have this drum and bass section, yeah, it's just kind of like, for me, it's kind of like meh. But if you love it, then you go, girl. I think overall, like, all that stuff is all subjective, but objectively, I think your track needs more brightness. I've added 6 decibels to the 6K and above. I've added 2 decibels from the 500 and above, and I pulled 2 out from the lower mids. Okay. And then when I listen to it, like, I think it sounds considerably better with a lot of top end versus low end. Like I've done a lot of shaping to this, and I think it sounds better. So I think the objective feedback that I have for you, disregarding the drum and bass, whether it's, necessary or warranted or a good fit for the song, forgetting all of that, because that's more of a creative choice. But from an objective point of view, I think you gotta bring some brightness into the track overall, not just the vocals. So that's what I think. That's my feedback for you, is to probably try to get it a bit brighter. And like I said, you could see it over on the spectrum analyzer. You could see the roll off. I'm losing control and I'm ever slowly fading. And it's important to note that, going for a perfectly straight line at all costs is not the goal. But when you think, like, the way I use this over here, the spectrum analyzer, is when I think I hear a problem with my ears, I go and look at the spectrum analyzer to verify and to maybe quantify which frequency range, because I might be like, ooh, that sounds like there's a real resonant peak in the high mids, or that sounds like there's no airiness to the track. And then I'll go and I'll verify visually. It's a good reference, but I guess my point is that you shouldn't mix visually. You should mix with your ears and use the visuals to reinforce what you think you hear with your ears. All right, that's what I got. It's honestly, you did a great job. The track, the writing on it, the melody, the vocal performance, it all sounds really, really good. So keep going and are you singing on it? I don't. Oh yeah, Aiden is singing on it. That is Aiden's voice. Okay, this one is called Arcanic Sketch 4. Yeah, that was really good. I really like this. The first thought that I had was halfway through this intro section, it feels kind of copy pasty to me. I would maybe add some variance or add something that's like starting to build up to like this next section. You know what I mean? I just kind of felt like I liked it. Like there's nothing new that happens in this section. So you could be like, you could have like a kick drum and a snare, like a little snare. It's like do 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 do, something to build us up to the part that's about to happen, instead of it just being kind of copy pasty at the start. Because I mean, the intro to the song is the listener's first impression. If you bore them with a copy pasty thing in the first section of the song, they might not make it to the sections of the song that really kick ass. They might be like, I'm bored, skip, you know, especially nowadays. So I would give some indication as to the crazy IDM stuff that's about to happen, even though I know it's already kind of there with all the little like the 16th note transient things, but like start amping us up a little bit at this halfway through the intro spot. The next thing, okay, got you. So you're probably planning on doing that anyway. It's interesting. Yeah. So the next thing is when it gets to this section, it was really nice that you gave us a snare drum on the 2 and 4 finally. You know, I would maybe try to give us some more rhythmic anchoring in the IDM section somehow. I know you have those open hi-hat things. Or like it's like a China cymbal or like but actually they don't. There's very little rhythmic anchoring during these sections. And I know that that's probably intentional, but I think that if there was just something that was going at like a quarter note rate or maybe a whole note or an eighth note, just something that's, you can have all this crazy IDM stuff happening. And I love all that. Like I grew up on, I was listening to IDM in 2003. So that was my first like foray into electronic music was like the Aphex Twin. That was like the first. I was like, oh my God, what is this? So I love the weirdness of it, right? But I think bringing in some more what's up, the girly girl? Wow. I think bringing in some rhythmic anchoring before it gets to that section is going to be good, because when it gets here, like now I can really rock out. And before I was more rocking out in my head, but when it gets to that section, I can rock out with my body a little bit easier. Are you doing music feedback still? Yeah, you can go throw a track in the Discord server. I'm going to shut the submissions down soon. So if you want to get one in, just discord.gg/Fowler music. Anyway, so when it got to that section with the snare on the 2 and 4, I was able to really rock out and get like fully into it. My brain was into it because of all the crazy 16th note, but then my body was into it because of the snare on the 2 and the 4. And that's all it took, was a snare on the 2 and the 4 to tell me when to nod my head. So maybe you don't want the rhythmic anchoring, and that's a creative choice. But if you could somehow get that rhythmic anchoring happening sooner, I think people would be like, oh my God, this is tickling my brain and I can rock out. And I think that's like the best of both worlds. I don't know if you asked me if I could post the link or if you could post the link, but the answer is no to both of them. You got to manually, I don't know. Somebody could post the link, but I'm not going to type it in. Bring in more digestive form. Yeah, I think so. And the other thing that, well, you can keep the weirdness there. The weirdness doesn't have to go away, because like the weirdness doesn't go away when there's still lots of weirdness happening, but the snare is just there. Oh, sorry. It's at the bottom of the screen too. Oh, I always try to move this and it never works. I don't know what I just moved. Woo, see this thing. Anyway, now I don't know how to center it. Oh, I'm such a professional streamer. Anyway, yeah, so the other thing that I was thinking is it would be nice, you kind of have this one element. So if you take kind of a bit of an inventory of all of the elements that you have fast drums, you have bass sounds, you have atmosphere. What you don't really have is a melody. And I know that like this style of music, you don't need like a very upfront hook. Like that's not what this music is about, but you kind of have something. That kind of like flute, that like flute sound, you got that, right? So maybe put that up an octave and try to use it as like the hook a little bit more, because when I'm listening to the track, I get all kinds of ninja sounds all through my head and then I start rocking out. But what I don't have is something that I can hum. There's something, you know, there's nothing I can like sing along to per se. So if you can get something in there that acts like a hook or a melody that doesn't compromise the weirdness and you don't have to compromise any of the current things that are happening, but you can introduce something that's a little bit more human, like hummable, that's not going to do anything but good things for the song, right? It's not really necessarily like super crucial for this style of music to have a real hooky hook, but if you can get a hook in there and not reduce the quality or you know, not compromise anything else, you're only going to profit because of that. So I sent the link to the production feedback channel. So you gotta upload it to hold on. Let's go like this. Pink Friday. All right, Pink Friday. Can you send that in the Discord server as a file? That would be much better because then I can put it in FL Studio. So that would be great if you could do that. Anyway, I really like this track. I think that you are a very talented IDM producer, and I think that the thoughts that I think that you should think about them too. Cool. All right, this one's called Cute. It is a cute little waveform, isn't it? Let's have a listen. So, I like this so far. It's cool, but man, is the bass loud. Like, holy. I think your bass is probably 6 dB too loud. I'm trying to bring the volume of the bass down, but what happens is because I don't have the stems, I'm bringing down the volume of the kick drum as well, and that's an issue. So I think your bass synth, I don't even know if I'd turn it down volume wise. I would maybe take an EQ and low shelf the low end, well, no, that's not a shelf. Fuck off. Sorry, that was aggressive. Like this, because I think the character of the bass isn't maybe not even loud enough. And what I mean by the character is kind of like everything besides the sub frequency. So like the jump, like those, the sound of the bass that you would hear with your ears, not necessarily feel with your body with the subwoofer. I think that stuff is probably an okay volume, but it's just the sub. It's very cool though. It's very like what's the what the fuck is that guy's name? I can't remember the guy's name. It's kind of like hipster indie electronic sounding, kind of like MGMT a little bit. I really like the track itself. The bass is just really overwhelmingly loud. And then the next thing is you're going to have to write a song here. You got a cool idea, a start, but you don't have a story. You have kind of a narrative. You know, you have kind of like the synopsis of the movie, but you haven't made the movie yet. It's like, you know, half robot woman gets hit by a car traveling 3/4 of the speed of light, and a lonely detective tries to solve the case. So that's kind of what you have. You have the idea here, but you haven't created the movie with all the scenes and all of the anticipation and the builds and the breakdowns and all that stuff. And obviously you know that because it's like a 1 minute section. But I think it's a really cool idea. I would turn the bass down and keep writing. Cool, that was easy. Scootoid, 1 in a million version 7. Wow. I guess it's probably 7 in a million then, wouldn't it be? I don't know how the math works out on that, but anyway. Okay, let's undo the stuff that I doed. There we go. This is a banger. Oh, God.
You and me, we're infinity, deep like oceans. 'Cause we fireflies glowing in the night. Don't stop the motion. And you feel just like 1 in a million. It's so real, it's something resilient. Pull me close, there's no need for resistance. Can you see it? And you feel just like 1 in a million. It's so real, it's something.
So we got like the danger frequencies being dangerously dangerous. In the vocals specifically, I would dip down some of this 3 to 5, 3 to 6 kilohertz range. Like if I listen, let's go to the, oh, Jesus, hold on. Like that frequency range, when I dip that down, it feels like somebody has put a warm face cloth on my face. Now, obviously, I wouldn't do it on the whole mix. I think it's just mostly, so far, the vocals that need a bit of that frequency tamed out of them. Let's listen to this section because it sounds kind of like maybe the synth that comes in might also need that.
Check it.
Man, yeah, you and Sawyer should collab on something. Honestly, Sawyer, I think that his kick drums are more fucked up than yours. And that might be some beef. You might have to start some beef over that. That part was sick. I really like this part. Wow. That was wow. Yeah, we're gonna play Sawyer's track right after. That's a good idea, just to get the two hardstyle tracks together and see I could DJ them together. Whoop. Who needs the sync button when you can not sync them at all? What do I think about this? I mean, just like how whenever somebody sends me like a crazy hardstyle song, I find it difficult to give you usable advice, because my advice would be to make it less distorted a lot of the time. Like I think my notes would all revolve around like, that thing is too loud. That thing is hitting a limiter too hard with too much reverb, and the reverb is being pumped by the limiter that it's smoking or whatever. So it's hard for me to give kind of feedback. I almost feel like Sawyer would be better to give you feedback, because his feedback wouldn't attempt to pull it away from what it is trying to do. You know what I mean? And I recognize that my musical taste, I mean, I enjoy listening to that for the pure entertainment of it. And there are some sections, like that one section that I said I liked. Like that, I genuinely like that spot. The other spots I like for the novelty of it, right? But that's just my music taste, and it's kind of like it would almost be like if you took like what's the new word for being like an emo person, like or goth, or like scene kid or whatever. It'd be like if you. So say you came out covered in piercings, wearing black and black mascara and everything, and then you walk up to like your grandmother and you're like, how do you think I look? You're like, she's going to, and now I'm realizing that in this situation, I'm the grandmother. I don't like this anymore. We're going to listen to Sawyer's track. Here we go. Dude, that was actually, like, this is some hardstyle that I can actually get behind. The kick has punch. The kick has sub. I didn't think you were allowed to do that in this style. That's like, this is actually like, I think this is a good place for hardstyle to be. Because it fulfills the needs of a kick drum while still being fucked up. Honestly, dude, I genuinely liked that. You know, it kind of which one was it? Was it here? It's a good track. Yeah. It's a good track. I don't know if I have any. I don't think I have any notes. I think for this style, this was very well executed. I think he did a great job. Yeah, I think the next song is going to sound different. I don't think it's going to sound lame. So here we go. This is Cloudy Parallels and Ren Numb Again. Wow. Featuring Micah Martin. Original mix, too. Dude, this looks like a line that I would have written in the code for my gauge. There's so many, like, brackets and shit. Here we go. Oh, shit. Sorry. I just started it. Wait.
Please give me a reason to keep on believing, even if it's a lie, even if it's a lie. Please tell me I'm healing, even when I'm bleeding. It's the only way I'll survive. It's the only way I'll survive. Turn it down, I'll tell you in the morning. Sleep tight, let the dream soaring. I don't like when I can't ignore it. It's storming in my head. I'm wide awake, but I'm losing focus. Made a bed full of bad choices. Keep quiet, I can.
Okay, I like this so far. I think that when you have that big thick kick happening, it's got a lot of low end. I feel like you don't need to give us full power sub bass, but I think there should be some bass happening down there to complement the kick. Because the kick kind of just seems lonely without like a sustained bass note or whatever happening down there. At least try it. I feel like you're trying to hold back a little bit so that when you like give us the full drop section, is Jay Gray there? Anyway, I think that's my guess, is that you're like kind of holding back on the bass and then you're going to give it to us at some point. But maybe, I don't know, maybe thin the kick out, or maybe have a little bit of bass to go with that kick.
It's storming in my head. I'm wide awake, but I'm losing focus. Made a bed full of bad choices. Keep quiet, I can hear the voices. The voices in my head. Just
okay, wait. We are streaming you streaming. What?
Just tell me you love it, and I can forget and forgive and forget again. And I'll crumble to nothing with the words that you say in my head till I'm numb again.
Wow. I don't know how the ads work on Twitch. Honestly, if I could turn them off, I would. And if I can, I will. Because I don't really care about recouping $50 every 3 months, you know. I'd rather you guys not have to watch ads. So if that's possible, I will turn off the ads. Anyway, so this is what I think so far. I think the drop, I think the whole track is pretty cool. I think that when you get to this section,
I'm wide awake, but I'm losing focus. And I'll crumble to
I feel like these sections before the drops could just be pulled back a little bit. To me, they feel like you're right up against the limiter kind of the whole time after 8.
turn it down, I'll tell you in more.
And I mean, like, you clearly are right against the limiter. So what I would do is probably, I'd probably just like pull back on the overall volume of the parts leading up to the drop. You don't have to make it drastic, but I feel like the quality of the mix gets a little iffy when you're sending all of the guitars and the drums and the vocals also hot into the master. And I don't think that it's necessary for this section to be as loud as possible. I think these sections should be more about connecting emotionally with the listener, with the words and the melody and the harmony and the guitars and all that stuff, and building us up and getting us excited rather than providing maximum power. I feel like that's what that's maximum power is right there. That's when you would want the maximum power. But leading up to the drop, it doesn't even have to be a whole lot, but you could just pull it back a little bit, just a little bit, so that the compression and the anger in the mix, it's just not quite as aggressive there. I see a red square in the bottom of my screen. I hope my stream isn't shitting itself, but I guess we'll find out. Anyway, let's keep going. Oh, where's the drop end? I mean, the fact that I can't tell where the drop end is telling, you know what I mean?
Just tell me you love it, and I can forget and forgive and forget again. And I'll crumble to nothing with the words that you said in my head till I'm numb again. Stop this!
Yeah, like the drop sections sound dope. I think that you've made really big strides, even just in like the past year that you've been submitting to the stream. You've made really big improvements on your drops. You know, you've always had like wall of sound drops where there's not like a single square inch of the mix that's not filled out. But now it's filled out in a much more controlled and sonically pleasing way. Before it was just kind of filled out at all cost. It's like loudness at all cost. But for this track specifically, I would just go through and treat the sections that aren't drops like they're not drops. Like go through and just pull back. Just those parts don't have to be as loud as possible. I think that there's two things are going to happen. You're going to have a much cleaner sounding mix because you're not going to have all the artifacts of like multiple stages of compression being just railed. But you're also going to have the drop sections hit even harder because the section before the drop wasn't hitting as hard. So like, I just really think that if you went and you pulled back those non-drop sections in terms of their power, loudness, compression, all that stuff, you're going to have a lot easier of a time to make it sound good, and then the drops can provide the power. Let's listen to this last little section. Yeah, cool. So one thing you could try, it's a bit dirty, but it could maybe give you an idea of a direction to go, is take your master limiter. Now, I don't know what's going on in your master bus, but I'm assuming at some point at the end, there's a master limiter. And automate the threshold up so there's less limiting happening. The threshold would go up during those non-drop sections, and then bring it down to where it's at for the drop sections. So you get less gain reduction, less volume just by bringing, like if I had this and this was my track, maybe the drop section's here and then it goes like this. Now, that's kind of a dirty way of doing it, but it's a quick way to maybe feel that relief of like, okay, now the mix has room to breathe and it's not just like cramming itself into my ears. But I would at least give that a try. Maybe it sounds great and you could just do that. I don't really like automating master stuff. I don't know why, it just feels wrong to me. But if it sounds great, then whatever, do it. And if it sounds good, but you feel bad about it, then do it the correct way, which is actually going in and modifying each individual track or bussing it and, doing it that way. Either way, I would at least give it a shot. See what it sounds like. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Netfelix Party Put Anthem? Oké.
Hallo, welkom Partyputmakkers. Kom lekker binnen. Ga lekker beuken vandaag. We gaan naar bangers luisteren. Ja.
Hele vuilnisbak.
Speaking of volume, or speaking of master automation. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call this hard style. This is more just like hard techno. I don't think this is hard style, but I'm also not like really great at genres, so who knows. I think this is sick. What I will say is that it feels like a collection of ideas. I feel like you had fun and you came up with some ideas, and now you have to make a song out of those ideas. Right now, they're just kind of chronologically placed idea sections. Raham, I would love to hear it, but I'm running out of time, so no. But next week, yes. So, yeah, I think what you should do is try to find, you can keep experimenting, but at a certain point, you're going to have to find the main idea of the track. The main motif, whether it's the dun, 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 or whatever. Like, that's cool. I like that screamy thing. They can both, it doesn't mean you can't use these things interchangeably or use them in the same song, but I think you have to plan out the structure. Thank you for calling me Dickolas. Nobody's ever called me that before. That was me being sarcastic. I think you should just, like, I don't really have any notes besides maybe the one thing I thought that the main kind of sawtooth dun, 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 dun. I thought that it kind of maybe could come up in the mix a little bit. Specifically, I didn't notice it in this first section, but when it went up an octave, it kind of sounded like it got quieter. That might be like an optical illusion for my ears, though. I don't know what that's called. An audible illusion? An audible illusion? An audiblusion? An oddblusion? I don't know what to say, but that's what I said, so I said that. Anyway, I think this is cool. Write a song. That's the best I can do. Okay, let's check out Tension Whip. I don't know who did this, but I'll find you. So this is what I think. I think it sounds pretty cool so far. You said that I think you're specifically struggling in, like, you don't know where to go with it now. What I would do if I were you is I would take a section. You know, you could kind of do it over here for now, like after what you've made. And I would try to narrow in on what you think the main element that conveys the idea of this song is. Now, you know, we have kind of some vocals, but they to me seem more like background, ambient, kind of atmospheric thing. So that to me isn't the main. I think this, the dun 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 doo doo da da, that's cool. That to me feels like the main hook of the song. So what I would do is I would forget about drum and bass. Obviously keep the tempo the same. but forget about it being drum and bass. Write some chords that will reharmonize with that melody. So you have that cool melody, put that somewhere. Now write some chords underneath of it and forget all about the fact that it's a drum and bass song. Just write chords that fit in an interesting way with that melody. Now what you have is a breakdown section, an intro section. This is the musical section without the drum and bass. That will give you a better, because right now your intro, like your intro is, it's kind of cool, but we just immediately go into drum and bass and we're like, hey, now we're drum and bassing in. And I think it kind of happens without any fanfare. It happens without any buildup. It happens without any preparation. It just kind of crams itself in. So I think what I would do is I would try to get away from, again, writing drum and bass and just write chords with a synth. Maybe start with a super saw, detuned super saw with a low pass, whatever. Now write some chords that work with that melody and really try to, because I think what you're doing is, because you do probably the same thing that most of us do, is that we just keep working on the same sections because we want those sections to be good. And it's a lot more comfortable to improve a section that already exists than to create a section that doesn't exist. So you got to consciously kick yourself out of that loop of being like, oh man, that drum and bass section would be so much better if I could just get that snare to sound, tighter or whatever. Like, fuck that shit. What you got here is good. Don't worry about working on this anymore. Just move yourself over to a section in the project that doesn't have anything and just write. If I were to play this on a piano, I could play chords with one hand and I can play dun, 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 da, 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 da. I could play the melody on the other hand. Now we have, I don't want to sound like a boomer, but now we have music that you can play on a piano with nothing else. You don't need production. You don't need drums. You don't need sound design. You got music as basic as it can be being played on a piano. And once you come up with that, then all of a sudden you can use that to build up to your drops. And now the drops have more meaning because you built up to them and they paid off something. You know what I mean? So I think that that's what you got to do. I think you got to you got to tell yourself, I'm not allowed to work on these sections anymore. I'm sure you can make them better. And I'm sure you will make them better. But right now, the focus should be on getting the arrangement arranged, because that seems to me like, if I'm hearing you correctly, that seems like your struggle is to figure out an arrangement, figure out a meaning, figure out how to turn this from a drum and bass thing into a drum and bass song. So that's what I would do. I would try to figure out some chords, get away from the drum and bass, and then figure out how to incorporate it into your drum and bass song. And even like in these sections, in the drum and bass sections, you have that melody, but it's very subtle. It's very quiet. And I think it probably could be quite a bit more in our face and represented as an important part of the song with the mix. So the mix represents it as, hey, this thing is important, as opposed to it kind of feels a bit ambient or a bit like atmospheric, as you know what I mean? Especially with the sounds and the delay and the reverb and stuff like that. So because I think what you have here, I'm not even going to give you notes on the mix and the drum and the sound design and the production and stuff, because I don't want you to work on that. I want you to make a song. Cool. All right. Hope that helps. Let's move on to this one, I think. Yes, we just did tension, right? Yeah, okay, good. I was mixed up. Okay, we're getting down there. So, aimer for feedback. Is that a person? It's definitely not English, but I'm not even sure that it's a human. Or they're slightly off pitch in order to sound human. Oh, this is another Boris track. I'm actually gonna skip this one because I'm running out of time and we already listened to Boris track. So I'll do that one next time. Boris, send it again. Okay, yeah, breakbeat idea. It's sick. I don't know if I have any notes so far. I think it's dope. So the only question is, what are you going to do now? Uh-oh. That's not a good sound. Oh, no. Oh, don't. The fucking Scarlet. Why is my mic still work? Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to save it and close it and reopen it, and hopefully that works. Sometimes I have to reinstall the driver. We're going to find out. That's not a good sign. I don't know why I put a D at the end of sign. Oh, this is not... fuck, I hate when this happens. Oh, wait, you guys can still hear it? Why can you still hear it, but I can't? I can see it. Am I going to have to listen to my own stream in order to... The fuck? Oh, it never ends. These fucking things. Okay, so anyway, my feedback on while I figure out how to fix this situation. My feedback is... Oh, I might be able to play. Yeah, let's try that. Let me see if I play it from here. I can see it coming through OBS, but it ain't coming through my speakers. So I don't know what the fuck that means. Okay, so here's my other idea for your breakbeat track. I think that you need to come up with a chord progression, because you kind of just you stick at the tonic the entire time. And the problem with that isn't for the listener per se, but for you to write the track, if you're always just sticking at the tonic the whole time, the root note, without having some sort of chord structure in the breakdowns, it's going to be hard to write a song like that. You're going to just continue to create this tension, the tension of sitting on that tonic. You're never going to break the tension of getting away from the tonic and doing a chord progression. Doesn't need to be a crazy chord progression. Doesn't need to be a pop 4 chord progression, but just moving the notes around a little, moving the harmony around a little bit, even while that like ooh woo thing happens. I just said ooh woo, I guess, but anyway, do that while playing chords that move around, and then we get a different context each time you play a different chord. That ooh woo woo thing sounds different because it's being related to a different chord. So that's my goal. That's my suggestion for you to move forward is come up with the chord progression and then write the song. The drops are great. You don't have to fuck with those. The builds are good. Everything's good. It's just mixing in some chord progressions. All right, I'm going to try to change the latency and see what happens. Okay, the mic still works. That's good. That's a good first step. It worked! Oh my God. Hooray. Okay, cool. Let's move on. That's what I think. I think that the drop sections are dope. They're like really good, but you got to make it a song. In terms of like a DJ mix, you could play it as is and it would work great in a DJ set. But in terms of having it on Spotify and having listeners listen and enjoy it from a listening standpoint and not in a DJ set, you kind of have to give it a bit of a storytelling vibe. And that's usually where the chord progressions come in. All right, this one's called Soul Killer, I think.
My soul will never rest. My soul will never rest. The man never singing my song. My soul will never rest. The man never singing my song.
So this is cool. It's very short. It's a cool idea. I think the vocal thing is wicked. I think it should come up in the mix because
My soul will never rest.
I don't know. I think it should be more in our face.
My soul will never.
I would even maybe get rid of the underneath it.
My soul will never rest.
So it's just like my soul will never rest or whatever. I think that's cool. I honestly, everything you have here is dope, but again, you got to make a song out of this. So stop working on these drop sections. They're sick. Don't fuck with them for now. Move on. Fill out your structure. Go take a track that's in the similar style, put it in here like this, and then just look at the arrangement and straight up copy the arrangement, at least initially, to get you out of your rut of like, I'm assuming you're in a rut because we're all in a fucking rut. Whenever we produce music, we get into a rut. I know how it goes. I've done it for decades. So what I would do to get you out of the rut is just take an arrangement that you like and straight up copy it and move your song around. And even if you don't have like a section for a breakdown, just put like a hi-hat loop there as a placeholder. And then once you get the arrangement filled out on your screen, even if some of the sections are just basic like hi-hat loops or like a metronome, at least now you know that you have to go fill that spot in, as opposed to when you just have this. Oh, I stretched it by accident. That's what she said. What the fuck? There we go. Instead of just having this and not knowing where to go, now you have, this, and you've broken it down to like tasks that you have to do. I have to fill in this section. Like that's a task. That's a thing that you can write down on a list and cross off when you do. So that's what I would do. I think you've done a great job at the drops. They sound dope. I really like the My Soul Will Never Rest thing. I think it should be more in our face. Fill out the arrangement at the end. Okay, the last one of the day. Amp 6 Payback 2. Is that like Payday 2? Is Payday 2 a game? Okay, hear me out. What would it be like if right here, what if you close the filter down almost all the way on the bass and it gets super clean all of a sudden and we still have all these sparkly doo-doo-da-dee-dee-da-das, but now the bass is not being so messy and in the way. And then you could open it up later and that could be a lever that you use to give different sections different feels. But I think that would be really cool if the bass sounds like it's about to get gnarly and then all of a sudden goes down simple and the bass line's still there and the sub is still there and maybe some of the harmonics are leaking through and there's still a bit of character. But for the most part, it's just being a bass. It's not being like a sound design bass. And then it's more about the da-da-da-do-do-do-doos, you know? I think that might be cool. You should try it. Then maybe like you open it up in this section or something like that. Those chords are like certified amp. I think it's cool. I really like it. I think that would be a cool thing to try because I think one of the things that makes a moment in a song a moment is contrast, right? It's when something changes drastically and creates a contrast from one section to the next. That is a moment. It's like a detectable event that happens. So when you do stuff like that, it creates a moment, and that's a memorable thing that happens in the song, and that's something that people. It's almost like I think there's part of us that when we listen to music and we like a song and we get to know the song, we almost take pride in knowing all of those little moments that happen in the song. And I'm not saying that like you show off, you're like, hey, check this out, it's about to do this thing, and then you show off to your friends that you know the track. I just mean internally, even if it's subconscious, we get some sort of satisfaction or like dopamine hit when we know something's coming up and then it happens and we were correct about it. It's like it makes us feel good, right? So that's I think part of why having moments in your songs is important, because it gives the listener something to learn, and then on a repeat listen, they know it's coming, they predict it happening, and then it happens and their prediction was correct. So I think making moments in your song is important, and that's one way of making a moment is, like I said, turning that filter all the way down and having this like stark contrast. The next thing is that I still would like to hear, you're hinting at melodies, but there's no real clear melody. Everything is either like a chord synth or like a sound design bass. I'm not really hearing like that, like that thing is kind of playing a melody, but it's not, it's just kind of flirting with a melody, I think. So I almost hear like is it haywire or like almost like something that would be played on a guitar, like a sync, You know what I mean by sync, like an oscillator sync, hard sync sound, or something. I hear something like that in here as a lead playing a hook or a melody. I think the groove is great. It's a little confusing at the start, but it doesn't necessarily bother me that it's a little confusing because pretty soon we get a beat and then we're like, oh, that's not where the downbeat, like I thought the downbeat was in a different spot. So it's a little confusing at the start, rhythmically, but I don't necessarily think that's a problem. I think you're very close to having like a melody in here. So I would push forward with that. But yeah, besides that, it sounds cool. Okay. Another 3-hour stream. Wow. It's a good thing I get paid for this, right? Just joking. I love doing these things and listening to your music and listening to new music because I am like most people. I listen to the same music over and over again because I'm too lazy to find new music. But on Fridays, I am forced to listen to new music, whether I like it or not. So that's good. I hope you have a good weekend. I love you all and good job, everybody. You did a great job. Okay. See you next week. Bye. Gonna click the... I gotta click this first. Okay, bye.